Good morning everyone and welcome to today's episode. The video consists of two parts. In the first part we'll cover the installation of Schollmüller Hitch rails on a Case Magnum Series 7200 to 7100 tractor. In the second part, around the 11th minute, we'll talk about repairing the front drive clutch. I invite anyone interested to watch. Here, as we can see, we are installing the hitch rail on the Magnum. I waited 4 months for this rail. I received 2 such rails, so now we'll have them installed on every tractor, you could say, and the same hitch will fit every tractor. Here, the hitch width is 330 millimeters, the thickness is 32 millimeters, and the pin is 25 millimeters, so we have this in every Magnum, and also for John Deere. The same rail for John Deere as well, so the same hitches will fit. Only in the Puma 155 do we have a different rail. There, the hitch is a bit different. But here we'll be able to swap them around, and that's a good solution because now we'll be able to hitch any tractor to practically any trailer or any machine, since there will be the option to mount a ball hitch on it. We have here a specialized rail featuring a fully adjustable height mechanism, so that will undoubtedly prove to be extremely useful and convenient for our project. Meanwhile, the cat seems quite eager to leave the workshop and head out. To properly install such a rail, we first need to carefully unscrew this existing top link mount assembly, and in its place goes another specific mount, just like the one we see here. It actually came as a complete set with the rail, and right here we have a full and comprehensive set of bolts to finish the job, as you can clearly see right here. Next, we also need to carefully unscrew the bolts located in this area, specifically the ones we are looking at right now. There are 6 of them positioned all around the perimeter. Once that is done, then this specific metal plate goes on top, this particular plate right here, just as you can see in the demonstration. We proceed to screw it securely into place here, and then after that we can attach this catch rail to the assembly. There are also these individual spacer sleeves to consider, which need to go directly into these designated spots here, and then we can move forward. This specific component is securely screwed to both the mounting rail and the tractor frame at the same time. That is precisely why this bracket is designed differently. It ensures that you can still easily remove the locking pin even when these sleeves are installed here. If you were using the original bracket, the holes would line up directly with the sleeves and the bolts, and it would be quite difficult to remove the pin. That is why this complete set includes a specially modified bracket for the connector assembly to make the process much smoother. So now we're installing this on 2 tractors. On the 7210, the Black Raptor, as we can see, we're installing it on that one because it didn't have it, and we're also installing it on the 7250. Once that's done, all our tractors will have hitch rails installed with a hitch width of 330. That's how it looks. We definitely need to take every single one of these existing pieces out right now because we have to use much longer bolts for this specific part of the assembly. So what exactly are we planning on putting on the frame now? Vasil, could you please go ahead and open up those new packages of bolts for me? Do you happen to have a sharp knife handy to cut that open, or can you just manage to rip it apart like that? We really need those extra long ones to make this work properly. And just to be clear, I am talking about this one right here, and this one over on this side as well.
Well, in that case, let us move forward.
You can certainly go ahead and put that on as well, because it really does not hurt anything at all.
And now...
So these ones go right in here. Wait, no. We actually need the 16mm bolts for this part. And right over here are the washers. You can see they're quite a bit longer than the others.
All of these bolts now.
That is simply because it really needs to be thoroughly cleaned up. Yeah, every single one of these items definitely need to be. When you are organizing your items, you should take all of the shorter pieces and carefully place them right in the very center of the arrangement. It is important to position these smaller components specifically in the middle section, nestled between the longer ones on the outside to create a sense of balance. By tucking the short ones into that central space, you ensure the whole display looks symmetrical and well organized. Just focus on gathering those smaller parts and sliding them into the midpoint of the layout to get the best look.
That's how it works, isn't it? Yes, that is correct.
Yes, right here. These 2 specific pieces, these 2 definitely go right here in this spot, don't they? They will go right here. And look, here are the washers we need for the assembly. Now looking over there at those other parts, are they supposed to be the 10mm ones? Or perhaps the 9mm ones? I need to be sure about the sizes before we continue with the rest of the work.
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
Well, we can put these on actually, it's kind of...
Will it be the same thickness now?
The precise measurement of the material thickness is a very important factor that we must carefully consider for this project.
It is, well, it is kind of,
It's the same, yeah.
what? These are also...
That makes 19 in total, and these, there are 18. Okay. We can definitely put the serrated blades on after we finish.
It has a serrated edge.
Let's do it once again.
Place it right on.
And then, slowly it emerges right before us, just like this.
Wait, but this...
Honey, won't you put this on first?
This, maybe...
To begin with.
This is it. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, put it here, because now the bag will be brought and we'll pick it up. You have to start from the bottom and...
You should be very careful when walking across this wet floor, because it is extremely easy to lose your footing and slip quite unexpectedly. I am sorry, but I am afraid that is simply not possible at this current time, so the answer unfortunately has to be no for now.
Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree with you on that point, and I think it is a very important thing for us to consider in this particular case.
He'll lean on it here anyway.
It will likely be just like that particular one over there. Oh, no. Wait, what is happening? It should be moving upwards. I would definitely think so, right? That seems to be the case.
Yeah, we should... Well, wait, unless we put in those small screws. Short ones. Yeah, lift it up. And the last one...
We count there.
Are you there? I want to make sure you can hear me. No, those are just for the nut, not for anything else. Okay, let me show you from this side so you can see it better. Now once I position it correctly, it'll actually hold itself in place on its own. Just like that. It just needs a little adjustment. I'll screw it in securely in a moment. Right there, so it stays put. Is it good for the rail? Yeah, it was on the right side. Exactly where it needed to be. That should make it stable and safe for use. And this is what the rail looks like after being mounted on. Here we already have the second 7250 Pro line, as you can see. Here is the single drum at 1000 revolutions. We have to remember that when we're buying this rail bracket and want to mount it, we need to choose the bracket that is flat at the back, because there are also brackets, I've bought one before, that are a bit convex at the back. In that case, you can't lower it any further. Here, because of the shaft, you can't. If it's flat here in line, then we can install it without any problem and lower it to this height as far as the rail allows. So, the disc harrow will also be towed using this ball hitch. All the machines will now be towed with a ball hitch. Every tractor already has a rail, so we'll be able to swap them as we wish when it comes to... It's dripping a bit because we had some snow, so it got a little wet here, but obviously it'll dry out, so that's not a problem. The quick couplings fit here. There was no need to modify anything, just need to attach a hose for the leak so it drains down, and then it's ready. And here we'll just make a bracket for the free return in this spot. Here to this bolt we'll attach a plate. There's a bulkhead fitting here, we screw it in, and that's how the free return will work. If you take a very close look at this component, you will notice that the original fitting was specifically designed so that this small metal tab would insert directly into the next available hole to effectively prevent the entire fitting from rotating during operation. In this particular case, though, we can see that this specific fitting simply won't fit into its intended position because the structure itself is currently in the way, creating a significant obstruction that prevents proper installation. Here is a spacer bushing. That's why this part is made differently. If we use the original one, the hole would be opposite the bushing and it wouldn't be possible to insert the pin, but here we'll simply cut it off nicely, flush, so that it's flat on this side. Then the pin will go through here and we'll use the same pin. The only thing is, we won't have the option to lock it in place to prevent it from rotating, and that's how it is. Right here we have to carefully replace the entire exhaust gas temperature sensor unit, because the electrical wiring cable has unfortunately snapped and is completely broken. It is situated way back there in that specific hard to reach spot, so we will definitely need to get in there to install it properly. And honestly, that is pretty much all the work there is left to do for this particular tractor today. The mounting hooks here were also already replaced earlier. I went ahead and put in brand new heavy-duty replacement hooks because the old ones just kept coming loose during operation. The rear ends, those apples, have also been replaced, along with all the bushings and sleeves, so there's no play there. There's no looseness in these linkages because everything was worn out before, since the tractor does heavy work for us. It's already clocked quite a few hours. Exactly how many, I don't know, because it's impossible to tell how many times the hour meter has rolled over. Right now it shows 8,000, so it could be 18,000 or 28,000 hours. Finally, the last part for the front drive clutch has arrived. It's this part. Visually, this one is also in very good condition, as we can see here, especially compared to this one. But as you know, mine was damaged. The shaft here was damaged at the needle bearing, and it worked together with this bearing. That's why, when I replaced it, I wanted to replace this part here so that it wouldn't be worn out just like this one. There's also a bit of wear on the seals of these Teflon rings. It's not a disaster, but if I install this part, which is in perfect condition, I'll have more confidence that everything will be fine. So now I'm going to start assembling the front drive clutch. I'll also replace these seals right away. I've already bought them. I'm going to show you every single detail of this process. Right now, I am carefully assembling the front drive clutch assembly. Over here, you can see that the Teflon seals have already been replaced with new ones. Bono. Directly underneath there is an O-ring which has also been replaced to ensure a tight seal. The next step in the process involves the installation of the piston. You will need to lubricate it thoroughly with oil from the inside, covering both surfaces. And now we are going to press the piston all the way into its position. Now that we have successfully turned the component over, the next crucial step in our process is to thoroughly degrease this entire upper surface, as well as this specific mounting plate. Once we are certain that every bit of residue has been removed from these areas, we can then move forward with the next phase, which involves carefully applying a fresh layer of lubricant across this entire surface to ensure smooth operation. We start by applying a specialized sealing compound intended for these axial connections to ensure a tight fit. Next, we carefully position this mounting plate onto the assembly. It is crucial that we precisely align the plate's openings with the corresponding holes found in the piston body. Once aligned, we proceed to insert and then carefully install each of the mounting screws. You should keep in mind that these specific screws had actually been broken off previously and needed to be replaced during this repair process. To start things off, I should mention that this is actually the second unit of this specific model that we have purchased for our ongoing project. After getting everything aligned, we proceed to carefully and firmly tighten each of the screws one by one to ensure that the entire structure is held together securely. Once that part of the process is complete, we take this specialized sealing compound and apply it evenly across the contact surfaces of these two halves to ensure a perfect and durable bond between them. The axial connection is specifically designed to serve a critical role in the assembly, ensuring that the washer fits snugly and securely against the piston surface. This precise alignment is necessary to maintain a tight seal and prevent any mechanical play between the components. By establishing this firm contact, the system ensures the washer remains perfectly positioned, which contributes to the overall stability and efficiency of the unit. Now that the component has reached this specific stage of the process, we are going to meticulously clear away every bit of the remaining residue from the entire surface area to ensure it is perfectly prepared. After we have confirmed that the cleaning is thoroughly completed, we will then proceed to the critical next phase, which involves carefully aligning and securely installing the new plates into their exact designated positions within the assembly. The plates, as always, are thoroughly saturated in a layer of protective oil and carefully installed in an alternating sequence one by one. These specific plates are very similar to those used in the clutches of those power takeoff units. The primary distinction to note here is the texture of the surface, but the total number of splines remains exactly the same, and these spacers are, as you can see, essential components. These components are virtually identical in their design, with the exception that the thickness here is exactly 2 millimeters, whereas within the gear clutches it is only 1 millimeter. They were replaced because, as we can clearly see, this particular section has already become significantly worn out over time. Now we must be careful to install them perfectly evenly, because later on in the process these plates will be tightly compressed by a spring mechanism. There absolutely won't be any possible way to adjust them later on, so it is essential that they are aligned perfectly and evenly within these empty plates. Take a look at this plate right here. Kaush, tell me, why don't you come over and visit your uncle a bit more often than you do? You could really learn something useful and help out a little bit around here. Well then, how much are you asking for that piece? He doesn't assemble. What? He took apart my reverse gear. Not very interesting things, right? All of it. Mother.
What kind of studies are you doing, Will? Which school do you go to? Oh, so you're in high school. Do you even like it there? And
do you know that the 40 is in very good condition? And do you know that it's actually in bad shape? No.
You've never been dismantled.
And do you know it was burned?
Burned?
Yeah, last year it was burned.
How?
What do you know? Well, I saw it there.
That's why there's no tank in the back.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
You need to apply a bit of lubricating oil to the gear. Once that is done, then...
To finish the assembly, we carefully close everything up by placing another disc that features a groove, and then finally a large circlip is securely fitted right on top of that structure. Now it's very important to align these discs evenly so they fit into the basket, because the basket is inside the tractor. If they're misaligned, everything will be compressed by the springs, because the springs go in alternately as disc springs. Now you have to compress everything here with a press, put in a washer, and secure it with a circlip. If you misalign these discs and compress them like that, they won't fit into the basket. First, you have to carefully make sure everything is even, then compress it, secure it, and try to install it. So I'm heading to the press now to compress it. We hope everything will be in line. We also need to make sure nothing sticks out past the edge. It's quite difficult. If the basket were out in the open, it would be easier. Well, we'll see if I can manage to do it in such a way that later it will. Looking at it closely, everything seems to be distributed fairly evenly across the surface right now. At this point, I'm going to make my way over to the heavy press machine, and once I am in position, I will carefully attempt to put the entire piece inside to see how it holds up under the pressure. Well, looking at this now, it is definitely going to be quite a bit of a hassle to get everything back together properly. Right here, I have finally managed to compress and secure the spring into its correct position. It is certainly not an easy task to perform by any means, primarily because I do not have the specific special pliers designed for these types of rings. Instead, I am just using these regular ones I had on hand, but I somehow managed to make it work after a lot of effort. Now that this part is finished, what you are looking at here is the front drive clutch assembly. To insert through this filter opening, just as we see here, and I have to align it with the shaft and the slots in the basket, we have to remember that there's also a washer that goes on the shaft, so don't forget about it. Alright, now I'm trying to fit this sub-clutch in. It's very important here that the plates are properly aligned, because if they're not, it's going to be a mess. It's in, it worked. No way, it's in. I'm surprised I managed to get it in like that. Alright, now this cover needs to be screwed on. This cover has holes that aren't symmetrically arranged. You have to align it properly and catch it. Then the shaft goes in. And the striker, I'll show that in a moment. I'll screw on this cover, this plastic cover. I've already screwed it on. It's held by 3 M6 screws. I used thread locker on those screws. We have to remember that the holes on this housing aren't symmetrical, so you need to position it correctly before tightening, otherwise you'll have trouble screwing it on later. And here, through this opening, we have to insert it from the front. We'll be sliding this shaft in now. It's ready, and here at the end we'll need to put on a Sega ring, and the shaft. We insert it from the front exactly as you can observe right here in the demonstration. Okay, carefully and gradually slide the component into position. Just a bit more, and then I'll put on the ring. Keep going, so I have it right here in my hand. Alright, now I'll put on the ring, and then we'll slide it in even further. As you can see here, the Sega ring has already been put on, and the main shaft has been successfully positioned and fully inserted. Now we need to insert here at the front, making sure everything is aligned correctly before we proceed. The bearing race, the adjustment shims. Secure them and press in the seal to see if it's ready. Here I already have the bearing race prepared, which I will press in there, along with the adjustment shims and the Sega ring. We have to remember that one of these shims is thicker. It's best to put the thin shims right after the bearing ring, and then place the thick shim. And secure it with the Sega ring, because if we did it the other way around, there would be a problem later on, as the thin shims could slip into the groove for the Sega ring, making it difficult to secure. That's why it's best to always place the thicker shim on the Sega ring side. Now I'm driving in the seal. For this purpose, I have a sleeve prepared of the right diameter, and I use the sleeve to drive it in so as not to damage the seal. In this case, the drive shaft is in one piece. And the length is adjusted by the hub sliding along the keyway on the shaft.